Welcome to GrayPrimer, a weekly show that's mostly about miniatures. My name is Nick, I'm your host, and in this episode I've managed to catch a Games Workshop unicorn, the elusive fantasy dungeon crawler, Cursed City. So the first time I saw Cursed City miniatures was during one of those Warhammer preview shows that they hold some weekends, and then it seemed like a massive amount of time passed before these came up for pre-order. So when the day came around for the pre-sale, I was waiting online with my independent retailer and I was ready to go. Nothing came up, so I hopped over to Games Workshop store and it was like there, and then it wasn't. It had just completely crashed. And I went back over to the independent retailer, 100 units in stock, and I was like, I wonder how popular this really is. I hit refresh, 71 units available, and I was just like, oh. So add to cart, got it purchased, and I feel very fortunate to have snagged a copy of it. I know the experience wasn't the same for everyone, and I know that a lot of people still are after a copy of Cursed City. Maybe it'll come back up in the market, maybe it won't, who knows. We'll never know really what's going on behind the scenes over at Games Workshop, but we just have to hope that they'll pull something out of the bag and get some of these back out on sale again. But I wanted to share the unboxing experience with you, get these built up, get a bit of a review of the miniatures up, and see what they actually look like. So let's not wait any longer. Let's go have a look at what's in this fantastically heavy box. You've got the contents of the box down the left-hand side here. 60 Citadel miniatures, that's great. All of the community links for Warhammer Community's website, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Made in the UK, Citadel miniatures, and then we get into the heroes here, and then some of the not-so-heroes, I'm reckoning, over here. And I like that there aren't photographs and descriptions of all of the miniatures that are included in the box. It retains some of the mystery. Sure, you've got the listing over here in text, but it would need for you to really, look closely at this central image to try and work out what else is in here. Couple of things I noticed on the back. Tools required, so you'll at least need snips there, the little clippers, but no glue required, so it'll all be push fit. You could obviously glue it if you want, and I certainly will be, but if you didn't want to go through that process, you could just clip these off the frame, push them together, and you're good to go. I'm imagining that the heroes and the villains will be in two different colors to allow you to identify which is which if there's no paint on them. Playtime is 2 to 3 hours, which it's quite long, but it's a dungeon crawler, so maybe that's not really all that long. So something strange I noticed over here. It's marked as for 2 or more players, but this has a solo mode too, and it's actually confirmed over here for 1 to 4 players. It's so rare that you would see a typo on the cover art of one of these big box releases from Warhammer. I mean, this is a premium product from them. It's fairly rare to find typos in Warhammer publications. I mean, obviously people are human and mistakes are made, but it's almost unthinkable to find a typo, a content mistake on the outer cover of a premium box title like this, a very high profile title, to have the wrong player count marked on the box. It's just so weird, and it's a little strange to see it. But let's get into this thing. Okay. Pop. Ooh. Just before I get into the plastic, you can see the inside of the box lid here is damaged from the sprues. Usually they would have a little paper divider. So just glancing at this, I can see that there's one of these dividers here, which protects game components and rule books from spiky sprues. Now, often you will see one of these on top of this as well, and that's designed to protect the box. This one doesn't have one, and you can see what happens. So you can see all that scratching, and some of those are actually quite deep dents, but hey, it's a box, so we're good. Well, the plastic is in 2 colors, so I'm reckoning that this stuff here is hero, and this stuff here is villain. And I remember reading that the sprues have got lots of spindly little pieces in them. These are particularly spiky Citadel miniatures, so that when taking them out of the box, you've just got to be really careful that they're not connected to each other, because you could damage the components really easily. So before I look at this, I already have this piece in my hand. It was just kind of loose there. So I'm going to look at this one first. This is the smallest sprue that comes in the box. The wolf pelts and things here. You can even see the paws and the legs of the wolf hanging down there too. And yeah, there's no shortage of detail here. We'd be very surprised if these were light on detail. And I'm just going to try and carefully lift this. If it's snagging at all. Ooh, it's snagged a little bit. I don't know, is there any way to avoid that? Yeah, I can see there's a lot of spiky bits here, bits of bat wings and tattered cloths and spears and things. I don't know if there's any way around that. They're going to get snagged. There is a tiny amount of flex in Warhammer plastic anyway. So even looking at the likes of this sword, you can see there's a slight amount of bend there. Like, they're not so brittle that they just snap away, but I'm not going to take any risks. Straight away on this sprue, I can see that some of these humanoid creatures are huge. There's like a big werewolf looking thing there. There's that huge shovel as well. And if you decide to glue these, I'd recommend that you just trim off just the very top of these pegs. Clipping off like a millimeter or two, that's all. And what that'll allow is space within the tube, the connecting tube here, space for there to be glue. Because if you were to put glue in there and then one of these full-length pegs into it, they're designed to be an ultra-snug fit. So it's actually just going to squirt the glue up the sides of the peg and out onto the miniature. So just trim a little bit off that, just clip the top off, and then it should give enough space for there to be glue. And you don't really need to over-glue these. It's a very light touch with the glue because they are designed to connect together so snugly anyway. You can see lots of zombie bits and pieces, and yeah, gotta love the shambling undead. And even this guy as well, even just the pose, the posture of him. There's lots of pointing going on these skeletons. He's like, yeah, it's over there. This one's like, no, it's over there. And this guy's like, I don't care. Sword time. And the good guys are in the same boat with regards push fit. On this side, it looks normal. On this side, it'll all be holes and pins, but judging by the size of this leg, it looks like the good guys are not exactly short either. Some very interesting looking weapons, great backpacks, and that pauldron detail is fantastic. And then the second and final one of the hero sprues, lots of cracker details here, and I am very excited to get those built. Plain black on this side. And then it has this very cool, almost like dripping blood into darkness, cityscape almost as well. It's an interesting piece of art, and I will be hanging on to that. That'll be nice as an out of focus background at some point. Then we have the card deck here as well. And this has everything, I think, is included in this. So the character cards. Yeah, so there's the one on the back there, Radukar the Wolf. You can see the thickness of this as well. This is a dungeon crawler. I do not like going through all of the components of a dungeon crawler. The whole game is about discovery and fear of the unknown, and I think that it's best to just leave that so that it comes up organically while you're playing, rather than having a full heads up as to everything that's in the decks there. Multiple bases here and here. And then in proper Games Workshop style, one random loose one. With push fit, you will always have these punched holes in the bases because they're not expecting you to glue feet onto bases. You will just, each of these bases will be specific to miniatures, and you'll just have to be careful when you're actually constructing them that you select the right one from the sizable pile that you're given. Dice, let's see if there's anything cool. So this D12 is of note because it is a really nasty looking D12. Super cheap looking. Look at the print on that 9. That is just bargain basement D12. Not good. Easy to read, but not good quality. And what makes that D12 look even nastier is just how beautiful these other dice are. Can you see that those little diamond shapes are not just a single piece of black? They are in 4 segments inside there. Like, look at the way that's been constructed, and it just sparkles inside there. And this is a really nice, like a baby blue color. the D6, which is again the same effect within the diamond markings on it. Bone color D6, it's just got those two marked faces, the 1 and the 2 there. And lots of blanks that I'm sure break the heart when they roll. Let's just quickly go back to this. Worlds apart, those dice. Don't know where they got these from. Lots of instruction books here. I will just set those to one side. Promo leaflet for the Cursed City novel. Errata. Remember I said about Games Workshop not making too many mistakes, and then I spotted that the player count was wrong, and then I spotted that dice was nasty. And now let's just have a quick look at these game tiles, and then we have beautiful full color tokens, game components, stunning stuff. Like, these look gorgeous through there. And it looks like it's printed on really nice stock as well. And then a whole bunch of baggies for different game components and the like. So just popping that off to one side to have a look at this beautifully designed rulebook. And it says at the bottom, read this first. What else have we got here? Okay, construction booklet as well. All right, I'll get this opened. Okay. So the rulebook, it's a glossy magazine stock. Reference page on the back there. Got game components, what all the cards do, those other components, breakdown of each of the miniatures. Oh, hero and hostiles, not hero and villain, was I calling them. Minimal art throughout, but I don't think it needs to be necessarily over the top. Ooh, is this a secret envelope? It is indeed. So, Ulfenkarn in peril envelope. Do not open until the final assault decapitation journey has been completed. Okay. Yeah, there's one of those for Blackstone Fortress as well. And for sure it adds that lovely element to the game of knowing there's a reason you're going through all of these different quests, as you get to have that secret unlock right at the end. Then we have the warscrolls for Age of Sigmar, so that you can use all of the characters from Cursed City in your games of Sigmar, and that is just very cool. Such a smart move from Games Workshop. I'm never going to argue with that, the ability to continue the adventures of characters that you play and start to love. You can continue their adventures into your regular games of Age of Sigmar. Then we're into the construction booklet, and there's like photographs alongside the full color digital images. A 1-to-1 reference scale for selecting your bases down here, so that is always going to be appreciated. I think the only thing I haven't seen here is a painting reference guide. I don't remember seeing that anywhere. It definitely wasn't on the back. No, there wasn't a painting reference guide with this. And that's an unusual thing. That's something we've become accustomed to seeing. Now, if I did like leaf past it or something, I apologize, but I just don't remember seeing one at all. And I'm sure there are plenty of resources for going online and finding painting guides for them, probably step-by-step video instructions as well. So hey, that's it unboxed. Let's go get it built, and I'll be right back. And here they are. Not all of them, because I didn't really feel the need to show the duplicates of the skeletons and the zombies and these other bits and pieces like bats and rats and the like. And I'm going to approach this miniatures review from a slightly different direction to normal. While you can't currently buy the Cursed City box in the shops, you can definitely buy some of the miniatures that feature in it separately. And there are other miniatures which are very close looking to Cursed City miniatures as well. So for example, we've got Radukar the Wolf here, who is available separately. Radukar's Court, which is also available separately. The Ulfenwatch are pretty much the same as the Deathrattle skeletons. Certainly the design principles are the same behind them. They definitely give that feel. You have the Deadwalker Zombies here, and there is a separate box of Deadwalker Zombies, but there is a distinction there. The Cursed City Deadwalkers all have the gravestones, the post-mortem accessorization all on their backs. The actual box of Deadwalker Zombies features a few of that style, but is mostly made up of unadorned zombies. So there's the difference there. And then after that point, none of this is available separately as yet. So let's start with Radukar the Wolf. €30 for this figure, so that seems like a lot of money. And it's not a miniature which feels like a marquee figure to me. It's kind of plain. Maybe that's just me. I do like all the pelts and everything. Some of them are kind of grisly. We've got like degloved paws here. There's tails and heads and all sorts hanging off this dude. I imagine that's quite heavy. But I just don't feel it from this miniature. I don't think it's worth the money. As a standalone, I certainly wouldn't be rushing out to pick this up. I'm much more interested in many of the other miniatures in this set. This one should have been a knock it out of the park kind of mini, but for me it just does nothing. And I think that the face is lost in amongst all of that fuzzy headgear. And then we move over into Radukar's Court, which is this entire set here of 9 miniatures. And this retails for €100, which is a lot of money for 9 miniatures when you consider that the Cursed City box set wasn't much more than that in its entirety. So that just seems like a crazy price to me, but let's put the price to one side for a second and look at the miniatures. So let's start with Vargskir or Vargskir. I have no idea how these things are pronounced, so just put up with me for now. Vargskir is fairly cool. Very large. It does look like he's hugging an invisible huge beach ball, but I think there's, for me, a little bit of the design weirdness in this is that it seems to be an amalgamation of a few different animals. We've got the pelting and the look of, like, I guess a huge werewolf, but you also have the webbed fingers here, which gives it much more of a creature of the Black Lagoon look to it. And then the face feels like the bat transformation sequence from Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman. So there just seems to be a little bit of a mishmash. I do love the little rat on the base of it jumping over a rock. That to me is the coolest part of this mini. So I don't feel we're off to the strongest start. Things do get better with the Kasargi Night Guard for me. I like this big dude. I think that there's something really interesting about the face, the long beard and hair. The headgear doesn't drown out the face too much. It's got a nice balance. The spike on the top of the helmet there is cool. The clothing as well, while slightly tattered, it's still pretty cool looking. I like the heavy duty boots and everything. And this weapon looks like it weighs about half a ton. But there's just something still interesting about this. And that continues really into the second of the Night Guard. Actually, this one even more so. While you've still got that interesting face and facial hair, the hand here is holding on to a ring of keys, and then the little rat on the base is holding another key in its tiny little paws. And these are just cool touches to these miniatures. Again, the coat is pretty fantastic looking. I like the gigantic axe he's got here. Things get even better with Watch Captain Halgrim when we see the first of the skeletons within this box. And it is a knockout. The eye patch there, you've got this tattered looking robe flowing in the wind. You got battered armor, corroded weapons. It just looks so dramatic and cinematic. The skull on the base there as well. There's just so much going on here. And from every angle, this just has that drama. I think this would be a spectacular miniature to paint up. This makes me want to have like an Army of the Dead. Honestly, this is just too cool. The quality doesn't ease off with Gorslav the Gravedigger. This miniature, it just hits all the right notes for me. It makes me think of Silent Hill and Bloodborne and Dark Souls. It's got so much happening within it. The little sickle within his hand pulling up this piece of wood. There's a zombie, poor thing, just being dragged from its eternal rest and brought out into the battlefields. You've got these spikes on the back with the skulls in them. There's huge and very ornate looking shovel. And I love the clothing, the way it's stretched between the legs here. This is another really great miniature within this set. And then we're into the first of the Virkos or Virkos Bloodborne. And look at this thing. It's so dangerous looking, so agile. And you know that this is just going to be a blur when it attacks. I love the way they've incorporated this damaged scenery into the piece. And You got the fangs going on, the spiky dew, this beautiful sword. Another one of these Bloodborne, and look at the flow of the hair, the pose as well, the way it's just clinging onto this pillar. And another one of these beautifully designed swords. I just love that we can now have swords as skinny as this, and they retain their detail and they don't just snap completely off the first time you look at them. Another great miniature. The last of the Bloodborne here, and kind of reminds me of like a Blood Bowl Wood Elf or something. And it wouldn't be hard to convert this actually to, if you wanted to do like a really cool vampire team. I know they're doing that retro reprint thing on the vampire team at the minute for Blood Bowl, but now this would be a Blood Bowl vampire. Beautifully made, and yeah, another incredible bit of design. Torgilius the Chamberlain wraps up our Radukar's Court set. I keep going to call it Torgilius the Chambermaid, but that's just me. And there's a lot going on here, but it doesn't feel too cluttered to me. It feels like everything has a reason. Everything has that little bit of narrative. Although I don't know why there's this, what is this, a notice board? Like, stabbed into this poor dude's back for whatever reason. He's got quite the menagerie. He's got a yoke that I think is nailed into his shoulders. And on that, we've got a raven, a rat, and a sleeping bat. It's so cool. Look at the detail in this. So look at that staff. It's got a wolf's head on it. You've got keys on the belt there. There looks like some kind of angry fox wrapped around his leg. Quite pirate-like again, much like, what was that character, Watch Captain Halgrim? So a little bit of a pirate theme there, but I just love this miniature so much. I think that it's one of the ones which I keep looking at, keep going back to, and it almost makes me want to paint. And if you know me, that's really saying something. Okay, so that's what €100 of miniatures looks like, Radukar's Court. I don't know if that's good value for money or not. There are some beautiful sculpts in there. Some of the best vampire-looking models I've ever seen. And if I didn't already own it here, I wouldn't be paying the €100 from Games Workshop for it, but I'd be looking at an independent retailer at that 20 or more % markdown. And yeah, I'd most likely hover over add to cart for a little while on this one. I wouldn't be happy paying a premium for this outside of the Cursed City box, but I'd probably still want to own those miniatures. So now I'm going to move over to the Ulfenwatch, and the Ulfenwatch, really design-wise, are almost identical to the Deathrattle skeleton set. Deathrattle skeletons, you get 20 in the box for €45, and I feel now we're into more reasonably priced kits, much more realistically priced. So let's check out these Ulfenwatch. I really love this design approach for skeletons. I like the damaged armor. You can see missing pieces in the mail here. The sword is corroded. The armor is corroded. The robes and everything are tattered. You can see right through the shield here. Will this stand up to a serious battle? No, the sword will probably snap in half the first time it hits something solid, unless it's got, a bit of magic protection. It's magic which brings them back from the grave, so maybe there's a little magic protecting these weapons too, reinforcing them a little bit. These feel like the skeletons we've always wanted from Games Workshop, and the old Skeleton Horde set that we used to convert for Blood Bowl, it feels very far from these. Like the heads feel scaled to the bodies, the hands feel scaled to them as well. It doesn't feel like the skeletons of old, which is just these huge heads and hands. But I do really love how they've done these. Look at the corrosion on this spear, and the posture is just very, very cool. This is the first one we've looked at without a helmet, and it works really well. That face is fantastic. Again, you can see all this wrecked armor and weaponry, and imagine the fun you could have with rust effects on these things. And putting these together was incredibly straightforward. They never felt fragile. They never felt overly complex like other skeletons I've built in the past. these things just click together really neatly. And for push fit, I didn't seem to have to spend as much time trimming down the little pegs or anything so that they would glue well. I did it for some of them, but not all. And normally that's something I have to do just to make sure that the glue doesn't squirt out around the thing when you push it together. They seem to work with minimum effort. There was also very little in the way of mold lines. Everything seems to be cleverly hidden within armor and clothing and weapons and things. It was just, very low frustration on the build, very straightforward. The banner bearer is one of those miniatures that, again, I just keep going back and looking at. I love this tattered banner. You can just imagine trying to freehand a coat of arms or something onto this. It might be better just leaving it as solid color, but you've got the corrosion up top there, and I can just imagine how great this would look, all rusted and wrecked, and the tips of these tattered bits of clothing all covered in like bits of mud and dirt. It's just great looking. Again, from every angle, this thing just sings. So now I'm going to go across to the Deadwalker Zombies. They do share their name with that box set I talked about earlier. It retails for $42.50. You get 20 of the Deadwalker Zombies. And unlike the ones you get in Cursed City, you also get zombies without the stuff on their backs. And I really wish that Cursed City had come with a bunch of those zombies too, rather than just having these ones with the stuff. It just does nothing for me, and I'll just talk through why. Like, I get that it's a cool idea that you've got this memento of who this person was, and it's going to be so common that the dead are going to walk the earth that you might as well hammer a nail through them with like a name tag to sort of say, oh, there's Mary. We'll go and pay her respects. You know, she's off for a wander again. This is pretty cool though, with all of the, I guess, like tree roots and things, and the bird with the eyeball in its mouth, and then the fact that he's lacking an eyeball. That's a cool touch. I thought this was a birdhouse at first, but it's just some kind of cool design skull with a scroll, and I guess another variant on a gravestone. But there are cool touches to this. I especially like, hopefully you can see it, the little rodent tearing away at his Achilles tendon there. No wonder he's screaming. But yeah, that one at least has a little bit of a narrative. The next one's really clear. You can see the spike come right through the sternum there. That is a graphic image. All the stuff on the top as well. I just calling it stuff because that's all it is. We got skulls and I think flowers and all sorts going on, but yeah. This poor guy doesn't have to worry about rats chewing at his ankles at the minute, but he does have to worry about having a broken ankle. So that must make a fairly nasty noise when he steps on it. But again, lots just happening with this for no apparent reason. This one does have a rat chewing at his Achilles, and then up top we've got all sorts of stuff going on. There's candles and flowers and a full-on gravestone. Got lots of stuff growing out of his face, and I think that this is incredibly unlikely that this stuff is going to stay in place with him shambling down the road. I imagine he'll just leave a trail of flowers and candles behind him. I don't know, maybe they're your thing, but they're not my thing. So that's the Deadwalker Zombies. So now it's time for some bats and rats. So these are these dire bats? Yeah, so these are dire bats, and they're pretty good. There's some imaginative ways they're attached to the bases, and I always think that that's kind of interesting how they're going to pull that off. But these, manage pretty well. I do like that there's a little bat just here, hanging off the wing of this huge one. Maybe it's what he wants to be when he grows up, is one of these massive, terrifying dire bats. The corpse rat collection here, I think they're either called corpse rats or blood rat. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a specific model. Maybe this boyo here in the middle is called the blood rat. But as a collective, they're known as corpse rats. And that is terrifying. Look at them all. Look at the way they're just clambering over each other. Their tails all up to attention. They're so excited chasing down their quarry. At first I thought this was a zombie cat, but the instruction manual tells me it's a gnawbone stray. And the enlarged incisors, yeah, it's more rodent than it is feline, but it's definitely got a cat-like gait to it, and yeah, really interesting to look at. This is a diregoyle. It's obviously a gargoyle, but it's named diregoyle to protect the IP, and it's alright. Yeah, it's stumpy little wings, which are cute. I don't know whether he's biting his thumb or what's he doing. It sort of looks like he's biting a coin there to check the quality of the gold, which is curious. Oh yeah, and he's got like a treasure chest under his arm, so I guess that tracks. And the next two miniatures are called Mysterious Object models, which is just a great name. And this looks like a raven holding a key on top of a pillar. And Mysterious Object model indeed. And there's another Mysterious Object model, but in a drastically different design. This is like a hanged skeleton. It's got a hood over the top of its head, and it's done really well. It shows through just the shape of the skull there. Very, very clever. I like the texture in the wood and everything on this gallows. It's just got a really well-designed feel to it. So that's all the hostiles covered. Now we're over into the hero models. And much like Blackstone Fortress, the other Warhammer Quest game, the hero models come in all shapes and sizes. There's a really good variety in there. The names are fantastic, and I'm not going to pronounce them well, but I'm going to start with Qualathus the Exile. Qualathus has the whole wood elf vibe going, the antlers coming into the head, the braided hair, the incredible combat archery pose as they spring off this piece of half-buried debris. And you can see the quiver on the back there, beautifully braided, like reeds or something making that up, which is very cool. The sheathed sword and the clothing, the whole thing here is just beautifully sculpted. Dagnai Holdenstock is next, and there's a lot going on here. The whole steam-powered harpoon gun, I think. That's just great. And this axe with almost like a rune-like handle to it. Ornamentation around the clothing. The beautiful coat. Standing on a half-submerged skull here. The whole steampunk dwarf thing doesn't really do much for me, but this particular miniature is still pretty cool. Like, there's a lot to love there. Imelda Braskov looks like she's straight out of Game of Thrones, especially the blonde hair that I've seen her painted with. But the clothing is fantastic. This eagle must have been some serious size. But I do like that it's looking off in this direction the same as she is. She's got her foot up on a rock there in a true hero pose. And the sword is very cool. For me, what makes this model stand out is this little touch here where the sword just pushes out the robes. I think that is so cool. Cleona Zeitingale, I'm guessing it rhymes with Nightingale, is not great work for me. It's alright. The staff is an interesting design, although it's knocking on the door of Stormcast. The throwing darts here, I think that's what they are pretty good. The pose is nice. The hooded face, I really like that. And the clothing down here, the robes and everything. Yeah, it's interesting to look at. But when you get round to the back, you're confronted with what I can only describe as a kite. It just makes no sense to me. Maybe there's a reason behind this type of design, but I will be cutting that off. That will be not staying on this miniature because it just makes no sense to me. I mean, these huge, thick ribbons hanging off it, I just don't get it. But I definitely get this big dude, Bruthog Corpse Eater. Look at the spike on the fist here. Is this like a punch dagger? Is that more like a punch sword? The ornate sheath on the back is very cool. It looks like potions and bottles and all sorts of things hanging off the belt. This big old spiky mace. And I think there's just so much going for this miniature. The name, Bruthog Corpse Eater, now that's a brave choice. If you're done getting your driver's license or your passport, they'd be like, can you spell that, sir? He looks great. He looks, again, very Blood Bowl-ish. I mean, you could just chop off the mace on the back here, and you have yourself a very cool ogre Blood Bowl player. You might want to lose the dagger or the sword or whatever that is on the back too, but hey, the weapons rules in Blood Bowl always seem a little flexible. Then we have Octron Glimscry. I have had to look at that name 3 or 4 times and it's still not going in. But the beard on this dude is magnificent. The robes work really well. The hunched over shape. What's hiding underneath here? The face is haunting as well. Glorio Van Alten III is up next. And so aristocratic looking, so posh. But knowing Warhammer, he's probably a bit of a rogue, and I'm sure he's fairly handy with that sword that's tucked behind him there. I do like the coat sleeves flapping in the wind here. I might actually run a pin vise up inside this just to open up that sleeve a little bit. I managed to drill the barrel on the pistol, but I missed that sleeve, so I'll definitely get that done. I love the face and the hairdo and this incredibly posh looking clothing. And then finally we have Jelson Daruk. Jelson Daruk has got this really cool weapon that fires stakes, I think, and one of the most beautiful looking swords I've ever seen on a miniature, and I can't even see the blade. This, well, looks like 3-handed sword is stunning. This hits all the right notes for me. I think it's really well thought out. A little flick on the coat there too. All of the great details around here, all the Mr. Pointies that are hanging off him. This is someone who's absolutely just a professional hunter of things that go bump in the night. One of my favorite miniatures in the whole set. And that's it, with very few mold lines, with really straightforward push-fit connections. This kit went together in record time. There was very little cleanup as I was putting it together, very little heartache. The whole building phase passed by very quickly. I was really surprised. I really hope they reprint Cursed City. I think it's just a game that should be out there, should be on shelves and available for people, because the components are great. The actual production value within inside it, apart from that little typo on the box, which is bizarre, but everything else just screams quality. The miniatures themselves, you've seen just how pretty they are, how well designed they are. Some of them are so iconic looking. There's ones that you would just sit and stare at for minutes on end because there's just so much going on. And I imagine that'd be a dream to paint as well. Now that the Age of Sigmar 3rd edition is all done and dusted, Dominion has had its pre-order, all that stuff is out of the way, I would love for them to turn the spotlight back onto Cursed City and do another print run on it. It is just too good not to be available to all. But that wraps it up for my review of the Cursed City miniatures. I hope you enjoy that. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below because I love chatting with you. On the next episode of GrayPrimer, I'm kicking off an entire month just dedicated to looking at Japanese model kits. The entirety of July is just focused on Japan, and I will be building some phenomenal Gundam in there, as well as a few little nice surprises. But that's on the next episode. Until then, please take care, and bye-bye.